You're right, Phil. So I just want to talk about reflecting on where we were 3 years ago. So if you look back to March 2020 and also the sort of time we're in now, very significant with certain events that happen around this time of year. Everything's sort of parallel to each other, like symmetrical. Around October, September time, you have Halloween and the autumn equinox, and the clock's going back. Obviously now we're in the other side of it. So it's spring, obviously, as of tomorrow or the next day. We've just had Mother's Day. Obviously, I hope you had a nice Mother's Day and all the rest of it. But so spring equinox begins tomorrow, and that's obviously to do with equal time, equal light and darkness. And on March 22nd, we go into more light than darkness for the first time. Since the autumn equinox, so in 6 months. Everything in this time is like, everything in the yearly calendar is kind of parallel to each other. It's all about the sun, which is obviously June 21st, when on the summer solstice, when it's at its strongest. Also, 322 is a big number in Skull and Bones, which is a secret society in America, where a lot of presidents have been involved with. And 322, 3 times 22 is obviously 66, which gets me onto another subject about number 6. You think we had the rule of 6. 3 years ago we had 2 metre social distancing, which is 6'6", and also it was really the release of a satanic world to me, because the rainbow flag flying nonsense became big time. To me, I remember looking at it. I was in Hull, and there was a rainbow flag flying by a petrol station for some reason, and there was a brilliant lightning cloud storm going on above me, and I just kind of sat there relaxing, watching it, and but yeah, just such a satanic sort of time, really. But I remember looking at that flag and thinking, that's not going to be the new world international flag with the kind of world we're going into now. So yeah, 3 years ago, you think March 23rd, the lockdown began, and that was after a good couple of weeks of media hysteria. And I think you can all look back and think, did you really actually see anyone kind of drop down in front of you? Because I certainly haven't. In 3 years, I can honestly say I've never seen anyone drop down in front of me. That to me isn't the Black Death. It's not the Spanish flu. Both of them probably. I mean, the Black Death happened in 1666, as in 666. Funnily enough. All the world's a stage, as Shakespeare said. And the lockdown began on March 23rd, just after all the pagan holidays ended. So I mean, the spring equinox was over, the celebration of light taking over darkness was over, and it lasted until somewhere around May the 8th, I think. So you have Beltane, which is May Day on May the 1st, where again, I would imagine a lot of sacrifices take place in the occult world around that time. The movie Wicker Man was all about human sacrifice to the gods so they could have a good harvest, because that's the beginning of the harvest year around that time, which lasts until sort of September, October time, when it ends around Halloween. Funnily enough, you've got the King's coronation, which is going to be on May the 8th, so exactly 3 years on, from when the lockdown ended. You've got the King's coronation. They're very strange. It's all kind of how it all ties in with each other. Again, all the world's a script. It's all like a big stage. But yeah, just reflecting on the public's reaction during that time. I remember seeing people were just kind of really buying into all of it. Me personally, I knew it was coming. I didn't know it was going to be so mild. I thought it was going to be big doomsday, geostorm, apocalyptic sort of stuff. 2020, but. That's still to come. 2020 was the beginning of it, without a doubt, though. And again, thinking of numerology, you think we had the year 2000, beginning of the 21st century, 2001, 2002, building up to 2020, and then from then on we go to 2021, 2022, and we're kind of like, so 2020 was like the baseline, should we call it? And then from then on, it's going to increase. 2000 to 2020 was like the build-up, and then 2020 onwards is, we've reached where we needed to be, and now we can, descend from there. descend from there. Obviously, in certain people's eyes, that'll mean we're going to progress, as we always call it. Reflecting on what I saw during that lockdown, I didn't play by their rules at all. I was out on the road every day on these deserted roads. Very nerve-wracking. I was always waiting for the police to pull me over and ask what I'm doing. I had a good excuse ready, but I'm not ashamed to say I didn't play their games. If I remember correctly, it was the VE Day celebrations, so 75 years on from when we apparently won that war against the Germans. And I find it quite ironic. You had all these baby boomer types and normies kind of flying the Union Jacks in St George's while being locked up in their homes, going on about fighting for freedom and all the rest of it. The irony of that is amazing. But yeah, you know, it's a bit of a reveal really, 2022, what the public are like, and you can see how easily people are manipulated, and it's quite frightening really. But yeah, I've always felt different from everybody else, and that was certainly a big eye-opener of why. Because people just can't grasp these sort of things that are going on right now. 15-minute cities, Great Reset. It goes over their heads, and they're just going to want to go and watch football, talk about whoever's fighting who in the next gladiator match, or you know, who's having an affair with who on Coronation Street or EastEnders. And yeah, I find it laughable as well. I remember walking up the street a couple of times, and people were jumping out the way of me, you know, into driveways, and like stood there going, "Oh God, isn't it awful?" I was like, "Well, you don't have to, just because you've been told to socially distance and all the rest of it. You don't have to do it. You know, you can be an adult, make your own decisions, stop being a bloody child." And you know, these are people who are probably twice my age, but I just laughed at them and just cracked on and ignored it. And what else happened around that time? I remember I was down doing a lot of boxing at the time. I started taking boxing up and training because all the it was just a brilliant exercise to do really. And I spent 6 weeks training. But while I was down there, I remember seeing some guy. It must have been about 60 odd. You know, he's telling people to back off, and like, so be chatting with someone when they're out walking the dogs, and be like, I saw him put his hand out and like back off, you know. And you know, he was a tough man. You could tell in his day, he must have been a big hard guy. And also we had the Bang Your Pans and Pots at 8 o'clock for the NHS, if you remember that. And that was sort of like the crazies coming out, you know, for the 2 minutes. Come out, bang your pans and pots on your doorsteps, often in your underwear and your pyjamas like a bunch of lunatics, and then go back in it. They're just laughing at you. They could, now more than ever, you must be able to look at these people and realise they were laughing at you. And I've got a question for you. Now you know, obviously, it was all a load of nonsense and you've been lied to and manipulated. What are you going to do? Are you just going to go along with it? You know, but that's down to you. I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just generally asking, if you know you've been harmed deliberately by these people, what are you going to do? Are you going to let them get away with it, or what do we do? Do we protest and stamp on our feet on the ground on the streets, like children having a big protest? What else do we have? I'm reading off a few notes here I made before I started recording this. This is fairly freestyled, you know, I'm just talking about what I remember. I remember Tesco's, which is near me. God, bloody doing that crazy zigzag snake thing, you know, to get for the queues to keep the social distancing. It was crazy, wasn't it, looking back on it all. And I could go on to a different topic, obviously the American event, you know, Pink Floyd, should we call him, and the kneeling event happened, and for some reason all the British guilty white liberal maniacs and psychopaths come crawling out the woodwork. I actually think 2020 was a glimpse into the future myself. I think you're going to see some really insane people over the next couple of years. It's going to get more insane. I think 2020 was just a glimpse into what's coming. And I'll be doing a movie on that soon I'll be doing a video on that soon about Children of Men, which was a movie that came out in 2006 about the year 2027, where, well, I won't go too much into it, but there's a lot of parallels between what happened in 2020 and also now and that movie. And again, like I've said before, I think movies and entertainment show you the truth. The news is just like, to me, when I watch the news, I'm watching entertainment, and when I'm watching the movies, it's the truth. And yeah, you really need to pay attention, because movies are them revealing their actual plans to you. It's a script. The media and the news is. It's all nonsense. You know, they tell you what they want to tell you. Yeah, I think what I'm covering there really is sort of March till May 2020. Yeah, I think that's about it really. I'll probably cover a bit more about, you know, the progression of the years that went by. But what I want to remember to say to people is, you know, this wasn't a dream. This genuinely happened. You lived through this, and yeah, it's well worth remembering what's been done to you over the years, because it's not on, is it really? But yeah, that's it. Cheers.